Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. But let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Veggie's mother-in-law throwaway from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole for telling my stepmother-in-law I'm glad she can't have children? When my wife was a teenager, her stepmother had health issues that eventually led to a hysterectomy. She and my father-in-law had been trying to conceive prior to that, and she's very open about how painful it was to become unable to have kids. She's been in therapy for years, but this is still a sore subject, so we don't bring it up. During the pandemic, stepmother-in-law became a vegetarian. While I obviously have no problem with that, no one else in the family is, and she tends to get very preachy about it. There is one specific video of cattle being slaughtered and processed that she has sent multiple family members. Because of that preachiness, my wife and I try to avoid having meals with her. I've also been told that she and father-in-law often eat in separate rooms. Anyway, my wife and I attended a wedding about 2 weeks ago. Our regular babysitter cancelled on us at the last minute, so father-in-law and stepmother-in-law volunteered to watch our kids, 8 male and 5 female. They babysat our children once a few months ago and things went fine, so my wife and I agreed. The kids were asleep when we returned home. The next day, my daughter was very upset. She barely spoke all morning. When we sat down for lunch, she started crying and refused to eat. We tried to talk to her, but she refused to tell us what was wrong. Eventually, my son told us what happened. We had promised the kids they could have burgers for dinner. My father-in-law was aware of that, but he apparently fell asleep less than an hour after we left. When it was time for dinner, the kids went to our stepmother-in-law to make the burgers, and she refused. My son offered to wake father-in-law up, but she said no to that too. She said she would make the kids something else for dinner. When my children started begging for the burgers, stepmother-in-law showed them the cattle video. She also apparently told them my wife was secretly against them eating meat, which is why they hesitated to tell us what she had done. My wife and I had a talk with our kids and managed to get them to feel better. After they went to bed, we called stepmother-in-law. She confirmed she'd shown them the video. To say we're both outraged would be putting it lightly. My wife and I immediately told her we were cutting her off from our kids, and would probably do the same with father-in-law for falling asleep when he was supposed to be babysitting. Stepmother-in-law started trying to defend herself. She told us she was only trying to help and that we should be making more efforts to get our kids to eat healthy. It only made me angrier. I told her she has no idea how glad I am that she can't have children, because I'd pity the child that would ever have her as a mother. After that, she hung up on us. Father-in-law has been calling and texting us. He is apologetic for falling asleep, but insists that cutting him and his wife off is an overreaction. He's also angry that I mocked stepmother-in-law's infertility. Apparently she is distraught at what I said, and father-in-law is demanding I apologize to her. Honestly, I don't think I'm the arsehole here, but I'm wondering whether I went too far. My wife agrees it was a low blow that stepmother-in-law deserved to hear, but a low blow nonetheless. Am I the arsehole here? Edits. Okay, to clarify some things I haven't already said in the comments. Father-in-law and stepmother-in-law babysat at our place, not theirs. And I can't believe I have to say this, but I have no problem with vegetarianism. I actually tried to become a vegetarian a few years ago, but couldn't for medical reasons. In stepmother-in-law's case, what I have a problem with is her preachiness. In general, my wife and I have always had a meh relationship with stepmother-in-law, but we never disliked her or treated her poorly. She made a few comments about introducing vegetarianism to our kids in the past, but never anything this extreme. I'll admit, I don't know much about stepmother-in-law's medical history. I only know about the hysterectomy because she didn't react well to either of my wife's pregnancies, and they had to tell me what was going on. We promised the kids the burgers back when they were going to be watched by their usual babysitter. Father-in-law and stepmother-in-law replaced her at the very last minute, and the kids ate chicken the last time they babysat. We didn't plan it, father-in-law found it in the fridge and cooked it, so we maintained the burgers. I saw the video a few years ago. It's a little under 5 minutes long and very graphic. Not the worst of those videos, but definitely not suitable for children. From my son's description, I think they watched most of it. I'm more angry about stepmother-in-law lying to my children about their mother than the fact that she showed them the video. The whole situation infuriates me. My wife is angry that her father fell asleep for personal reasons, but we're not certain about cutting him off. We won't budge on stepmother-in-law. Having read most of your comments, I think I'll apologize for what I said about her fertility, but I will maintain everything else. I don't want her near my children ever again. I'll update when I can. So, there was two main comments which were from the opposite ends which OP replied to. Someone said to OP, "That's fucked up to do that to little kids. I don't even want to see that, and I'm an adult. No one wants to watch animals being slaughtered. We know it happens, but to constantly watch it and share it seems a little unhinged. It's up to her what she wants to do. She doesn't have to force everyone else into compliance." OP says, "Yeah, I completely get my stepmother-in-law not wanting to make the burgers, and I'd never ask her to. But the solution would have been to wake up my father-in-law, who shouldn't have been sleeping in the first place. I don't understand what made her think of showing them the video was a good idea. It took me and my wife hours to convince our daughter to eat." And the other commenter says, "Knowing where food comes from is what all people should know. The world is not antiseptic. My class was taken to a meat packaging plant when I was in the 3rd grade. OP says, "My kids already knew where food comes from. We taught them that without showing them videos of animals being killed. And if your parents were fine with you seeing that, that's fine. I was not okay with my 5-year-old watching cattle being butchered." For me in this, look, I think the comment you made isn't going to help situations. It's only going to escalate things. I assume it was only said in the heat of the moment. And people say shit in the heat of the moment, right? But I think, and this might sound a bit brutal, when people do cruel things, they get a cruel response in return. Showing a 5 and an 8-year-old that video, like without even the parents knowing, is psychological abuse. There's no other way about it. She traumatized young children, tried to then turn them against their mother with her lies, whilst she was in the position of caring for them. That's not trying to help. It's using, her position of trust to force her agenda on vulnerable children. But ducking ridiculous says not the arsehole. She's distraught. Your child is distraught. She showed them a video of animals being slaughtered and told them a lie about their parents. What she did was manipulative, dishonest, and cruel. Rabbit says, "Normally I'd say the snide remarks about infertility are out of line. End of story. Your stepmother-in-law has found the exception." Bagel says, "Not the arsehole. I'm a vegan. My husband is not. My kids eat vegan and non-vegan items. It depends on who cooks. I would never show my children a video like that, ever. It's horribly traumatic, and this woman cannot be trusted around small children. Not eating meat is a choice, not something to foist upon unsuspecting people, especially innocent babes. What an arsehole that woman is." The Quiet says, "Not the arsehole. The video isn't the worst part. The lying to the kids about their mother is." So, sometime later, OP comes in with their update and says, "Hey everyone, thank you for your input on my first post. Though my wife and I had no intention to let her back into our children's lives, I decided to apologize to stepmother-in-law for what I said. My wife and I talked a lot about the subject. She said that based on her history with her stepmother, it really was a good thing she didn't have children. But before we had ours, my wife had always wanted to be a mother and was terrified about the possibility of not being able to. The fear got worse around the time stepmother-in-law had the hysterectomy. My wife told me her stepmother was agonized when it happened, and even though she agreed with me, she felt it might be best to apologize. Another thing that led me to make that decision was my mother. Before my brother and I were born, my parents had a stillborn daughter. They didn't talk about her much, so I didn't even think of it at the time. But my brother brought it up a few days ago. I couldn't stop thinking about her. As a parent, I can't even begin to imagine how my mother felt. I would never mention anything related to that out of anger, no matter how wrong my mother was. In the end, my wife and I agreed that while I should apologize, we absolutely can't budge on cutting her stepmother off. We can't forgive what she did. It took us hours to convince our daughter to eat anything, not just meat. Even after that, she refused to eat meat for a few days because she didn't want to be evil. Our son wasn't as shaken, but he still had trouble sleeping for a few nights. My wife and I sat them down and had a long conversation about it. We answered every question they had as well as we could. Thankfully, we were able to reassure both our kids that eating meat wouldn't make them bad people. They are still a little distraught. but they're doing much better and eating normally again. Our main concern will be their health and happiness. Stepmother-in-law compromised both, so we had no doubts about cutting her from our lives. We called father-in-law and stepmother-in-law this weekend. I apologized for what I said to stepmother-in-law, but told her we were still cutting her off. As expected, she didn't take it well. She started going off about how she was trying to help our children, and we were terrible parents for depriving them of that care. I'm pretty sure she was crying. She said that it was awful that such cruel and ungrateful people could raise kids and not her, and we shouldn't allow our children to take part in something that caused so much unnecessary suffering. After about a minute of that, father-in-law managed to get stepmother-in-law to stop and hang up the phone. My wife later spoke with her father separately. Father-in-law apologized again for falling asleep. He said he understood why we were upset, but promised he would never do anything like that again. We decided to forgive him, but we won't leave the kids in his care again, and he will only be allowed to see them without his wife. We have options besides our usual babysitter. Father-in-law agreed. He invited us for a family dinner at a steakhouse my wife loved as a kid. He hasn't been there since stepmother-in-law became a vegetarian. We're going this Friday. I definitely have my regrets, but I'm satisfied with how things turned out. More than anything, I'm glad my children are alright. Watching my daughter refuse to eat was terrifying, and I will never forgive stepmother-in-law for scarring her and her brother like that. But they're getting better every day, and I think things are going to be okay. Once again, thank you for all the advice and support. I'll try to reply to more comments this time. Opie adds more information on the children, and they said, the more details my kids give me about what happened, the more I wonder whether apologizing was the right move. I still don't regret doing so, but I don't think I'll stop being furious at her anytime soon. Plus, it was difficult at first, but they're doing much better now. I think we've managed to reassure them we'd never think any less of them. Someone commented saying it's pretty hilarious that father-in-law has taken them out to a steak dinner to apologize though. Opie says, agreed, but I don't think it's out of spite. He loves the place too and has been wanting to take the kids there for a while. His wife refuses to go there, so he never had the opportunity. We did have a family dinner there once, before stepmother-in-law became a vegetarian, but my son was too young to remember it, and my daughter wasn't born yet. And the last commenter says, be careful on Friday. You might want to arrive a few minutes late and send one adult in first to confirm that stepmom isn't present, or arrive early and sit in the car until you're sure only dad shows up. Opie says we'd be careful, but she avoids steakhouses like the plague. I think we'd be fine. Yeah, you know, Reddit brain's got me overthinking as usual, thinking, oh yeah, she's not going to give up just like that. Especially with, like, you know, father-in-law taking him to a steakhouse. And again, I know this is probably like way overanalyzing, and I'm not sure where this is or anything like that, but I've been to a few steakhouses in my time. And what popped into my head immediately is like some of the decor in steakhouses, they have like a picture of a cow with like the cuts of meat explained. And I just thought, is that a bit too soon for the kids to see? Again, that might be totally overanalyzing, and I don't know what's right or wrong there, but it popped into my head and it would be a worry for me, I think. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And now let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Turnover Gullible 8489 and says, am I the arsehole for slapping my brother after he gave away the money he promised me to his wife? My brother is 27 male and I am 20 female. I don't want to sound entitled, but I'm entitled to the money he promised me. Our parents had funded his business and he promised to give me money for my higher education. And I can't even ask my parents because they don't have money, but my brother does. A few days ago, I went to my brother and told him I need money for my education and I need him to pay the fee and help me a bit with other expenses. He said he can't because he used all his money to fund his wife's new business and he asked me to wait a while. I told him that I can't wait, it's going to cost me a whole year, and he said he can't help right now. I lost my cool because my parents gave all their money to my brother, and I didn't have a problem with it. We were wishing that he would become successful and help us, and he promised to help me find my education. I told him that he promised me, and it's not just his money, it's mine as well, and we all trusted him. But now he's betraying me, and you don't have money. You should have saved up for me. I'm your sister, but you compromised my education, betrayed me and our parents. He still said he doesn't have money, invested all he had in his wife's business. I got so angry I slapped him and said that I don't need his help anymore and consider me dead. He can't keep being his wife's slave and do her bidding. He grabbed my hand and tried to stop and talk to me, but I didn't listen to him and left. I no longer care about my brother, to be honest. I thought it was his love that he cared so much about his wife, but now I know he's being used. But I'm so stressed about my future. I don't know what to do, and deep down I still care for my brother. He used to help me so much, and now I'm wondering what happened to him. Holiday Ad says, it's kinda your parents' fault as well. They shouldn't have given everything to him. Should have given him his share and asked him to get a loan. Cold Wave says it's like giving your toddler the key to the cookie jar and then wondering why they're on a sugar high. Parents really need to start teaching those sharing is caring lessons earlier. Turn Psychological says slap him, then slap your parents, then slap yourself. All of you are the arseholes for not talking out things clearly. OK Charity says, your content is not clear here. Did you give him a heads up that you will need the money at least a few months before, or went to him and wanted it immediately? What was agreed upon? There is no rough figure mentioned here. How did your parents survive if they gave all the money to him? You sound foolish to say you don't need the money anymore. You could have asked him to co-sign for a loan and give you the money. If he hesitates and involves your parents, anger and rage will not take you anywhere. Think of solutions before ruining your life. So, OP came in with her update and says, I know I will get a lot of mean comments on my post, like on my previous, and I'm prepared. And I also agree that I shouldn't have slapped my brother, but I was angry because he almost jeopardized my career and I was angry. I decided to talk to my grandparents because I need money and I was relying on my brother to help me this whole time. My parents shared my share of the inheritance with him and were thinking that he will help us. Me, during my college, but he backed out. I told my grandparents everything and they sided with me. My grandpa was angry and he said that my brother already got his inheritance from our parents, so he won't get anything from them. And he said his share of the inheritance will go to my college fees and other expenses and whatever I would like to do next. To be honest, this whole thing has been a blessing in disguise because the amount of money I'll get from my grandpa far surpasses than what I would have gotten from my parents. My grandpa lectured him a lot and told him that he betrayed me and he should have been taking care of me instead of his wife, and told him all of his money is going to me. The lecture lasted a long time. But my brother later called me and said I should have trusted him and waited a while instead of complaining to our grandparents. I told him I don't care anymore. I trusted him once, but he broke my trust and he should be helping his sister, not his wife, when you both are already comfortable. I told him that I'm sorry for hitting him. If he wants to call the police on his 7 years younger sister, he can, but now our sibling bond ends here. I will focus on my life and build my own career way better than his. My brother tried to reconcile, but I didn't believe him and told him to fuck off. So a commenter says, why did your parents share your part of the inheritance with him? Why was there an assumption he would give this money to you at a later date? Sweet says he basically agreed that if they did, he would ensure when the time came for OP, he'd pay for their education. In this time, however, his wife decided she wants to start her own business. And although they were comfortable, he spent all OP's inheritance he had not already used, as well as the money he since saved to replace it on that. He didn't even tell any of them until OP was making plans and getting ready to enter uni and approached him. Only then did he tell OP that's not going to happen any longer, as he used the money he promised on his wife instead. That's what's caused this whole thing. That he used the money knowing how close it was until OP would be due to go to uni. He knew he was breaking his promise, which meant he swindled his parents into giving him OP's share just for him to effectively steal it and break his word. He told OP tough, but the moment his grandparents get involved to make it clear he will get nothing of their larger inheritance, then suddenly OP should have trusted him and waited. Nah, he's a thief, nothing more. And another commenter says, the whole situation is incredibly dumb. OP says it is dumb because I was a dumbass for trusting my brother. I have no idea why everyone is fighting me like it's me against everyone on Reddit. Yes, I made a mistake by slapping him and I apologize, and I cannot go back in the past and undo my slapping. If my brother didn't promise me to help with my education, I would have never agreed to let him take my share of the money, and I trusted him, and when I need money he says he doesn't have it, and he's invested it in his wife's business. Like, what about me and mine? People here are telling me to get a job or a loan like a million others, and even if I do that, it won't fix my issue. He gets all the money and I should just forgive and forget. No, I fought for my money, and in return, I was blessed with far more than he got. I have no idea why everyone is ignoring the fact that my brother almost fucked me over and my trust in him, but I guess I will just stop responding here and live my life, because it was a mistake to post this to begin with. I'm not sure where OP got like everyone's turning against them on Reddit, because the comments that I was reading, a lot of them are incredibly supportive of OP's decisions. There is some comments that saying that, you know, you both just sound awful. And that regardless of what happens, there's no excuse to hit someone, etc. Others saying, you know, they're just all in the wrong. There's a lot of bad decisions made in one post. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.